Hello mi gente and welcome back to Nata Knows Best. So today we're going to be making Puerto Rican arroz con salchichas. This is an old school inexpensive recipe that my papi used to make all the time. It is super simple. It's just some yellow rice with chopped up Vienna sausages. If you're making that face, it's probably because it sounds a little weird, but trust me, it still has all of those signature Puerto Rican flavors. So it's still super tasty. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna hop right into this recipe by chopping our Vienna sausages. Now these are the Vienna sausages that you're thinking of. Yes, they're the ones that come out of the can. And although they aren't the most ideal type of protein or meat, they are pretty tasty and they're inexpensive. So that's the reason why this dish was so easy and comforting. It was just one of those recipes that Puerto Ricans would just kind of make up on the fly and turned out actually really good. So I'm just gonna chop these up into bite-sized pieces. And I actually have a funny story about Vienna sausages. So growing up as a kid, I never referred to Vienna sausages as Vienna sausages. I actually used to refer to them as tikis. So that name actually originated way back in the day with my older brother who couldn't pronounce Vienna sausages, obviously, because he's a kid. So he used to refer to them as tikis. That was a lot easier for him. So after so many years of him just referring to it that way, my dad started referring to them that way, and so did my mom. So by the time little old me was born and they started making this recipe for me, I would just refer to it as arroz con tikis. So it's such a cute little story and it brings back super sweet memories. So shout out to my brother for making up that nickname. It still sticks to me to this day because anytime I see this wonderful can, all I think of is tikis. So as you guys see, I have 3 cans. So for this recipe, you're gonna be using 3 cans of tikis. And if you guys are looking for the full recipe and measurements, I will be linking it down below. I'll also be posting the recipe on my website. If you guys have been here for a while, say it with me. It's nataknowsbest.com. So go ahead and check it out. And now that I finished chopping up our Vienna sausages, I'm gonna go ahead and put our caldero on some medium heat and add some olive oil. I did forget to mention that as I'm chopping the Vienna sausages, I did drain them ahead of time. We do not want to reserve that liquid. It just doesn't have the flavor that we're looking for. We kind of want to build more typical Puerto Rican flavors with sofrito and tomato. So we're gonna get to that, but just don't reserve this. Just go ahead and pour it out. Now that we have our olive oil nice and hot, I'm going to add our homemade sofrito. So I'm just gonna cook down our sofrito for roughly 2 minutes, just until it gets a little aromatic. If you guys are new to this channel, we use sofrito in almost every single Puerto Rican recipe. This is homemade sofrito on top of that, which is just extra fresh and packed with flavor. So I'm going to link it up top here for you guys. I will also be posting the link in the description box below. So check either one of those reference points to find that recipe because I guarantee you it is so delicious. And the next ingredient that we are adding to our sofrito is going to be our tomato sauce. Now again, if you've been on this channel before, you already know sofrito and tomato go together like, I don't know, peanut butter and jelly. So this is an iconic duo that's gonna give this rice some amazing color and also some super delicious flavor. So add that in there. And you're just gonna cook the tomato sauce and the sofrito together roughly for about 1 minute. Just enough so you kind of cook out some of that acidity that's in tomato sauce. All right, so now that our sofrito is nicely simmered, I'm going to add our rice. This is white rice that I've washed several times to make sure it was no longer cloudy. That's a super important step, by the way. You don't want to add your rice just straight out of the package, because then it's going to still have some of that extra starch, which will make this arroz a little mushy. And while it might taste good, the texture is not going to be ideal. And I'm adding the rice in first just so it can absorb some of the sofrito and the tomato sauce, start giving it that color, while also toasting it up just a bit so we can get some flavor on that rice. So I've had my rice toasting up a little bit, and now I'm gonna go ahead and add our liquid. So I'm going to add some chicken stock. And next I'm going to add our Vienna sausages that we've chopped up. Let's see if I can actually make it in this time. I have the habit of being super clumsy. All right, only missed 2. So I'm just gonna give our arroz a quick little stir. And now I'm just gonna let the rice come to a full boil and start letting all of those flavors start simmering together. And you can't forget your seasonings. So while your rice is starting to boil, go ahead and add your favorite seasonings. First thing I'm gonna do is add 1 leaf. I'm gonna add 1 bay leaf. We already know the flavor of a bay leaf and rice is almost like another peanut butter and jelly situation. I'm also gonna add a little bit of oregano. And then I'm also going to add some sazon. This is sazon with achote and culantro. So it's gonna have a little bit of those complementary flavors to the recao that's in our sofrito. And then we have the achote powder, which is gonna give it that bright orange color. But because we already added some tomato sauce, it already has kind of like an orange tint. So you're only gonna add half a packet. Give that one more stir. Ooh, I can already smell it. Perfect. So you wanna boil your rice to the point where most of the liquid has fully evaporated. So since our rice has absorbed most of our liquid, I'm going to reduce the heat now to a low simmer and put on the top, and I'm just not gonna touch it. I'm gonna let it cook for roughly 20 to 22 minutes, just until the rice is nice and tender. And so it's time to check on our rice. I'm gonna grab my fork and give it a little fluffing. It is definitely looking cooked. Perfect. All right, mi gente, so I served myself a nice little portion of our arroz con salchicha, and it's time to dig in. So I'm gonna get a little bit of the rice, and of course, our tikis. This is such a comforting flavor to me. My papi used to make this all the time, like I said, and it just brings back really fond memories. The rice is nice and fluffy and tender. We have those meaty flavors from our Vienna sausages. And of course, our flavors of sofrito and tomato sauce just take this dish over the top. If you guys liked this recipe, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if you guys have ever made this recipe or what feelings you get from it, because I know it gives me such homey, old school vibes. I will also be posting this recipe on my website, which is of course nataknowsbest.com, so make sure you go check that out. Stay tuned for next week for another delicious recipe, and as always, mi gente, thank you so much for watching Nata Knows Best.
Rima!